Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the webinar, and we have a fabulous group of panelists for you this morning, this afternoon, wherever you happen to be. So before I introduce our panelists, let me just cover some housekeeping issues. So just a reminder, on the 19th and 20th of April, so just over 2 weeks away, we have Channel Focus Virtual. If you haven't already registered for the conference, there's still time to register. We have over 50 fabulous speakers, including some of the most renowned people in the channels in our industry. So fabulous topics running over 2 days. So please join us. There is still time to register for that one. Next slide. And a reminder, this is a women's only event, but we have the Channel Focus Women's Leadership Council happening on the 27th of April. This is completely free and is one of the most powerful virtual women's events in our industry. Only women allowed, nothing is recorded. It does deliver some extraordinary insights and some really, really open conversations amongst the women taking part in that event. So if you haven't already registered, feel free to do so. And free is a good word there because attendance is absolutely free. We want to make it as open to everyone as we possibly can. Next slide, Matt. And basically, if you would like to ask a question or comment, pop it in the chat on the left-hand side. So basically, feel free to comment, to ask questions. We want this to be as interactive as we can possibly make it. So looking forward to working with our panelists. So without further ado, I am going to introduce our panelists one by one. And so our first panelist is Carlos Blanco. He's currently VP of Channels and Alliances at Jamf. He was previously with Citrix and Dynatrace. He's got extensive experience with the hyperscaler and MSP routes to market. He spent 17 years in the startup world with some very successful startups. So Carlos, tell us just briefly about Jamf.
Hi, Rod. Thanks. Hi, everyone. Jamf is the leader in enterprise device management and security for everything that is Mac. So Mac OS, iOS, tvOS. We're a global corporation, publicly traded under the symbol Jamf.
Excellent. And our second panelist is Richard Flynn, and he's the partner and CMO of Spur Reply. And Richard is a founder of the Spur Group. He's an industry veteran with nearly 30 years experience. He's helped many companies in the tech industry shape and execute their channel strategies and go-to-market approaches. Currently, the Spur Group has 250 go-to-market employees, sharing their expertise across a range of sales, marketing, channel operations, and data projects. Richard is a firm believer that we face a new renaissance of channel innovation as companies redefine their go-to-market approach, as cloud solutions and remote workers become the norm. We see many new approaches as vendors satisfy a widening range of customer needs, embrace different types of partners, and build new, novel ways of selling. In his off time, Richard focuses on family, painting, and architecture. So Richard, tell us briefly about Spur.
Yeah, we are the leader in go-to-market consulting. We kind of help everybody from what's their content needs to how do they operationalize to how do they figure out their channel and indirect sales strategy and support programs. So we really, focus on helping sales and marketing leaders generate revenue and accelerate their growth.
Fabulous. Our third panelist is Randy Skipper, and he's the VP of Sales for Zift. And Randy has over 10 years experience assisting clients improve their channel processes and technology. He's helped design, implement, and support hundreds of partner portals, including Samsung, Panasonic, Nutanix, Hewlett, AWS, and GE. And Randy is the father of 3 kids under 6 years old, so he has absolutely no spare time whatsoever. And he's based out of Lehigh Valley, PA. So Randy, tell us a little bit about Zift.
Awesome, thanks, Rod. Hey, everybody. Randy here at Zift. I'm the VP of Sales at Zift. Been here for 10 years. Zift and our product Zift One, we're a SaaS platform that helps suppliers manage the full partner lifecycle. Everything from recruiting partners, onboarding them, enabling them, and training them, helping them drive marketing activities, and of course, tracking the pipeline. End result, more revenue through the channel, and happier partners, and excited to be here. Thanks, Rod.
Fabulous, welcome. And our fourth panelist is Christine Stiles, and she is Director of Sales Enablement at Panelists, and is a career-long channel engagement and incentive program advocate. For more than a decade, Christine has used her passion for the channel to speak to, develop, and execute engagement strategies for vendors and their alliances to capture partner attention, build program commitment, and accelerate go-to-market outcomes, right down to the influence of sales, rep, and long tail. And when not tackling channel challenges, Christine is an avid traveler and lover of all things water-related. She most enjoys being oceanside with her toes in the sand. So, Christine, tell us a little bit about Channel Assist.
Sure, thanks, Rod. So Channel Assist is a channel engagement and incentive program provider. We work with vendors worldwide to establish their engagement strategies and then execute it using our channel manager platform and marketing and program management concierge services. This allows lean vendor program teams to automate and scale their key engagement strategies like incentivized training and sales activities across the customer journey to create a confident, engaged, and motivate channel right down to the rep and long tail. And I'm really looking forward to sharing some of my experience and hearing from the other panelists today.
Fabulous. So once again, any questions, any comments, feel free to plug them into chat. And I'm going to get cracking on what is a very important topic, building an effective partner sales enablement strategy. And Carlos, I'm going to start with you because you're top left on my screen. So partner sales enablement, who should we be talking to? Just the partner sales team? Or should we be looking much wider than that?
Well, in my opinion, Rod, it's all about segmentation. If you look at your typical partner organization, whether it's a large partner or small partner, there's basically 3 or 4 distinct groups that need different things from you from an enablement standpoint. So we always think about the sales team because, we want the sales team to sell something. Unfortunately, the sales team is only part of the equation. If you don't train the technical staff, which is where the sales team goes for more of their help when in the sales process, you're not going to get very far. And then there's the executive branch, right? Like what are the owners? What are the managing directors? What do they want out of the relationship? And what we tend to do in our industry, I think this is a tech industry thing, is we tend to be very feature specific and always trying to sell the benefits of the features in the product rather than what's the business proposition. So when you talk to those 3 audiences, and if you add in the operations people, each one of them wants a different thing from you in order to be successful. And where do you meet them with the education that they need on your products, on your company in order to be successful within their role?
Mm-hmm. And Christine, if we're looking at this wider group of people that we're trying to talk to, how do we get the information to them in a way where they're actually going to consume it and it's not just lost in this massive communication they're getting all the time from everyone?
I think one of the important things to piggyback is you have to segment it. So whether you're using a partner portal or an incentive program or engagement program, you need to have it that when they log in, that they're only seeing content and engagement activities and enablement activities that are relevant to them. And that's going to be different based on those different audiences that were just spoken to. So I think it's really key to not just dump everything in one location, but have it so that people only are offered what is going to be most relevant to them, and incentivize them to use it.
And Richard, how do you get them engaged? I'm a typical partner. I've got 15 members of the team, say. I've got a technical staff. I've got the C-suite. I've got the sales guys. I've got my program guys. How do I get them actually involved in my training? What's going to make them say, yeah, I want to do that?
I'm going to build on what both Carlos and Christine said. You know, as Carlos mentioned, you got to have a clear business proposition for the people who you're targeting. They have to understand not just that you have a great product that's going to make your customers happy, but why it's relevant to them. In most cases, vendors are components of a solution. And so you have to be able to position yourself within the solution that they're going to market with. And that becomes very important. Secondly, you got to have an easy system to navigate. You know, we don't actually build a system. We promote other systems that are out there, and you know, these are great solutions that are on this call. But if you're not really managing your system in a really structured portal that makes it really easy to not search for content but find content, you're behind the times, and there's a lot of good solutions that can do that. And then the third element that we see is really important, and it sounds really basic, but is just focus on having great content. You know, all too often, this is a difficult challenge for people. The partner team might not own the content generation. That might come from a product group, or it might come from a marketing organization, or they have to repurpose what's, you know, for inside sales, you know, to partners. And if you've got a new product, it might be 4, 5, 6 months late to the launch of the product. So really focus on having that great content. And it's almost always best to have, you know, 3 or 4 core collaterals that are fantastic, than try to have every use case for every scenario. And if you focus on those 3 things, having the right proposition, making sure you've got an easy to navigate system, and you've got great content, partners will eat up what it is that you're talking to them about.
And I think I would just add to that, you know, you can't just create the content and put it someplace. You actually have to use it, present it to them, create fun ways for them to engage it, and really make sure that you're presenting that relevance and that ease of access, and make it so that they can use it right away.
And Randy, coming to you, we're getting a lot of questions in the chat about how you actually segment the people in your partners. So what's some good ways to really understand who's who? And just before I bring you in on that one, Adisha, got a great question from you about measurement. I'm going to try and take the webinar in a logical sequence, so I'm going to pick up on that question as we come towards the end of the webinar. So I haven't ignored you. We will actually bring you in later on during the webinar. So Randy, segmentation, how do you understand who they are? How do you get the names? How do you engage with them?
Yeah, so from a segmentation standpoint, you know, it really comes down to the data that you have on the partner. Being able to identify, you know, who is this partner at the organization level, you know, what products and services do they sell, what solutions do they sell, what industries do they focus on, what type of customer sizes do they deal with. And you can do that by, you know, asking them surveys, asking them to complete their profile on a partner portal. And then once you have that data, you can start segmenting it into, you know, kind of groups that make sense when it comes to what you're going to present to them. And then at the individual level, you know, persona based, you know, making sure that you've got interactions with, you know, the sales team, the marketing team, the technical folks, the support folks, and then presenting, you know, content to them based on, you know, the liked interest. So that goes for, you know, what they see when they log into the portal, what they go when they're going to go download assets, what type of communications they receive, and allows you to be, you know, real targeted with your messages and your content. But really, you know, at the core of the segmentation is, you know, making sure you got good, clean data on those partner orgs.
Okay. And Carlos, we need to get beyond the products. You know, we've spent years as an industry going, here are the speeds and feeds, and aren't we better than the competition? And isn't that great? What does the partner really want to know?
Like I always say, Rod, there's a role for a 4-button remote, and I'm the perfect example of that person, but everybody's trying to sell a 50 or 60-button remote. The value prop really I mean, I always look at the channel in terms of behaviors, not into what they call themselves or what we call them, but what is the natural behavior or tendency of that business. So if you're talking with a partner who focuses on delivering services, some might call them an MSP, you know, the value proposition for an MSP versus a reselling led entity in terms of what they need from an enablement standpoint is radically different. You look at an MSP type partner, a run type partner, it really is about more technical information, more very deep technical information, because they're building a solution on top of you as opposed to reselling your solution. You look at a reseller at a sales rep at a DMR, for instance, such as a CDW, and I don't even know if they call them DMRs anymore. It's probably a bad word. But if you look at somebody at CDW who has 3,000 people on their sales floor, what is it that you're trying to accomplish to get that person to get behind your brand? You probably have a much limited time cycle in terms of the information that you can communicate. And unfortunately, what we do in this industry is we take, generally speaking, is we take whatever we produce for our internal, unless you're a 100% partner-led organization, you usually start from taking your stuff internally and fixing that in some way, insert partner instead of account executive, and roll that out. The challenge is that unless you are a primary vendor to that partner, that material has no relevance. So therefore, why would they go through the trouble of reading something that doesn't really apply to their business? Whereas internally, you have a captive audience. Your employees have to go to the trainings. They have to go to sales kickoff. And that idea of just taking stuff and recycling is what gives us all a bad name in this industry when the partners complain about the lack of, to Richard's point, the lack of quality versus the quantity aspect of the enablement materials.
Okay. And Christine, we've got an interesting question coming in. My company's solution is a complicated hardware and software solution that's used in manufacturing. We can all read that on the right-hand side. What advice have you got for someone launching a new technology through their partner channel?
I think in terms of when the product or the solution is complex, you need to look at breaking it down. So not everyone is going to be, you know, a starter, and not everyone is going to be you know, an advanced knowledge in your industry or with your product solution. So you need to give consideration in your enablement to take them from introductory through to advanced, show them how they can apply it, and give them the opportunities to practice that as part of your enablement strategy, and show and get the feedback from them on whether your tools are working, especially if it's new and if it's complex. You don't want them out there you know, communicating your value proposition, or you're targeting the wrong people, because then it adds to the potential risk of failure for your product. So you do really want to put it into layers to help them develop and become those advocates and experts that you want them to be.
Richard, any thoughts on that one?
No, you know, I'm dating myself, but I guess when you're around for a long time, you remember this stuff. There's a great book by and I'm trying to I remember his name is Jeffrey something, but Crossing the Chasm. Yeah, and if you haven't read that, like I said, it's a 25-year-old book probably. It really talks about how to think about those new adopters of technology and how you cross the chasm to, you know, a commodity type product that everybody's using. And, you know, it's as relevant today as it was, you know, 20-some years ago. You know, I think the key is, again, you got to keep in mind that deep down, partners are interested in monetizing your solution to help them acquire, grow, and satisfy customers. Notice that nowhere there did I say they're interested in selling your product. You know, they're not. They're interested in satisfying their customers. So make sure you're explaining and articulating how this will help you win more customers, that this will help you lower your customer acquisition costs and really establish a growth pattern that's going to increase the lifetime value of the customer. And lastly, really show them how this is going to help you deliver as a partner more satisfaction within your customers and help you really satisfy and keep customers loyal to you as a partner. If you always hit those 3 points, they will focus on your solution, no matter if it's a complex solution or a simple solution.
Excellent. And Randy, anything we've missed in terms of I think we've missed the point. The first thing is we need to get the partners interested. We need to get them engaged. We need to get them believing that this is a business solution that's making the money and that they are going to benefit from, because that's what they're interested in. And too often people come at it from the wrong direction. What other advice have you got for the people on the call?
Yeah, so I would say from like a more tactical approach, if it's a brand new solution and the partners haven't sold, a customer yet, not a bad idea to, maybe pass them a lead and have one of your sales team members who has sold a deal before work with that partner, all the way through from, the qualification, what type of questions you're asking, to the demos and the presentations that you're doing, the meetings on site. Until that partner kind of picks up the sales motions, maybe give them a lead, and then definitely pair them up with, your sales team to walk them through start to finish on those first couple of opportunities. And then you could use that once you understand, all right, the sales motion, the messaging, the content, the collateral that's used through the sales process in terms of what's important to the partner, then you can kind of mimic that motion and then present it out to the rest of your partner base. But getting those first couple of deals under the belt through the partner, it's definitely going to give you that kind of that blueprint in terms of what's going to work.
If I can just jump.
Oh, go ahead, Christine.
I was just going to say, so I like what Randy said, but I would also add that you have to be conscious also in your enablement process that you're not creating too many dependencies. I've seen organizations that are take on too much at the beginning of that process, and then they can't escape it. So the partner is dependent on them really for the sales cycle, and it becomes a co-sell even for the simplest items. So just be conscious of that and have the contingencies and monitoring if you see that happening as well.
Okay, and Carlos, you've run. Sorry, Richard, come on.
Oh, I was just gonna, because both Randy, Christine sparked something. I think it's really important to not think of sales enablement just as training and content. It is, how do you support them through the selling process? Do you have partner success managers the same way as you have customer success managers? Do you make sure that you're repeating how they can make more money through your incentives program and your ongoing partner support? All of those things are as important to sales enablement as the content and the training that you're giving to people up front.
And Carlos, coming to you, you've run many channel teams over the years. Traditionally, we've gone, okay, you are the channel account manager, you're responsible for partner sales enablement, you're responsible for the ongoing relationship, you're responsible for managing all the problems that the partner is having with the organization. Is it now time to say, hang on, that's the wrong approach? We should have a dedicated, be it partner enablement team or partner success team. How should we look at that?
Funny you should mention that, because when I got to Jamf, we basically had that same setup, right? And I looked around for about 3 months and said, no, job one is selling. I think channel account managers forget that the only reason that they have a job is because they need to sell something. At the end of the day, that's all the organization cares about. So if you're not focused on sales activity, then you're not doing your job. So if you need to do trainings, bring in somebody who can do the training. You need somebody to do a technical demo, bring in somebody to do a technical demo. And that's the way we structured it. So we have the technical people, we have the marketing people, we have the enablement people, and then something that we created was enablement delivery. There's also this false notion here that if I created, they shall come. And to Richard's point, you load up a portal with a bunch of documents, more documents than should be there. And then you track to see how many people are visiting and use that as the measure of success. We've taken a different tact in which we proactively deliver the content of the material so that we have regular webinars. You know, you come if you want, you come if you don't. And those enablements are not only internal, but external to the partners, and it's categorized according to the type of audience. So we'll have a training on value proposition, the value proposition on why you should represent Jamf over the competition, as opposed to something for the technical people or the systems architects on our carrier. We have a carrier go to motion as well. It's a lot more work, but if you want it to be effective, you got to put in the time. And if you don't have that support, then the CAM becomes basically appointment setter for everybody.
And Randy, how are you seeing your clients tackle this one?
Yeah, in terms of the CAM relationship, it's, trying to offload as much of the administrative work through automation and tools and processes, and really given the data that the CAM, needs to do his job. You think about your typical CAM, they got anywhere between, 50 and maybe 100 partners that they're managing, and they got to focus on the ones that are going to, bring in revenue. And where do they focus their time? Working with them in terms of identifying, all right, kind of resources from the supplier, whether that's, demo equipment, demos, or meeting or support, technical information. But, really providing that CAM with all of the insights in terms of what the partners are up to, what partners need to do, where they are in terms of their training progress, the enablement, so that they, when they're gearing up for those QBRs and those business planning sessions, they have that data available.
Okay, excellent. And Richard, there's a general rule of thumb that if you get the partner through the first 2 or 3 deals, it becomes part of the flow and their natural flow in terms of doing things. What do you need to do to get the partner through those first 2 or 3 deals?
I think a couple of things. I think, first of all, you want to, in my opinion, have a really simple entry system into your sales engagement or enablement. Gone are the days where we're only going to share this with our certified top tier partners and everybody else. No, if information can be freely distributed, do that. I think the second thing, and this ties a little bit to, I know, one of the later discussions, is really measure outcomes, not activity. It's not how long people have trained or how many courses they've taken or how many, things they've completed on a learning path. It's, have they actually booked their first appointment? Have they, done their first sale? Have they gone through and done some sort of co-selling arrangement with a local resource if they're going after a particular market where that makes sense? So make sure you're tracking the business outcomes. And then lastly, I'm a real proponent. Again, I think, like Carlos said, this is not necessarily what your partner account managers or whatever you title them might be, but do you have a team of resources that are focusing on that partner's success? Are they looking at the life cycle of the partner and making sure that they're moving down it and using the reporting and the tools of these systems to help track and log that? Really lets you know where to focus your efforts to make sure that you're seeing the outcomes that you're looking for.
And one of the things that I think a lot of people forget is they talk about sales enablement. What about marketing enablement? And how do you build that into the program? And what suggestions have you got for the people listening in today?
In terms of marketing enablement, I think it goes back to what someone said earlier, the whole concept of if I build an asset, they will come. That isn't the reality. You need to use your marketing capabilities, your communication capabilities, and all the touch points, whether it be your channel team, whether it be your alliance partners, whether it be other partnerships that you have or distribution as examples, influencers, and you need to be able to get the word out about not only what you're selling, the benefits, the value proposition, but also get yourself a reputation using your marketing of being relevant, delivering what you promised them. And that goes right down to, paying out incentives and having marketing campaigns that have incentives associated with them, whether they be monetary or whether they be non-monetary or exclusive activities. So marketing is really important in that enablement process, but you have to make sure that it has value and you're not just creating noise.
And Carlos, when you look at marketing enablement, it's often a very different person that you're talking to within the organization. So how do you think people should tackle that?
It's that every time we bring up the subject matter, it reminds me of your first channel focus about 30 years ago, where this was a topic. It's never been resolved. It really depends on the partner, right? I have the spectrum of Verizon being a partner, all the way to a 2-person MSP out of, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And so you can't treat everybody the same. I have the DMRs that also are self-sufficient in marketing. As a matter of fact, we know how all that marketing works. So it really, if you're going to take on marketing enablement, you really got to, again, go back to segmentation and determine which of those partners in your whole ecosystem can actually move the needle from a marketing standpoint. And how do you enable them with the right content and the right messaging, because they can take it from there. I think the trying of educating the masses that marketing has failed miserably on industry for years. And as you get lower at the bottom of the marketing totem pole, it really is about automation and marketing tools that help the partner not do the work, actually do it for them as much as possible. And that requires an investment, again, in more time and money.
If I could add something, this might be a little unflattering, and I apologize, but this is us speaking earnestly. Partners are oysters or tigers. Oysters wait for the business to come to them. Maybe they send something into their installed base saying, "Ooh, we've got a new offering," but their level of sophistication and capability around marketing is very low. And you have tigers that are the true hunters, the people out there who are making the market for themselves. And you need to be able to recognize which partner is which and get an understanding of what their marketing resources are. What's their budget? If their marketing budget equals how much money you're giving them in MDF, they're an oyster. If they are 10, 15% of their revenues are focused on marketing, they're a tiger. And ironically, we see that it's the tigers that use the marketing automation. It's not the oysters. Because the oysters, they don't have the level of sophistication to really understand how to use the marketing automation. Whereas the tigers really want to leverage all of that automation to have the most impact around their marketing. And so understanding your partners, what's their capability, and then aligning them to the things that you're doing is always important.
Randy, one of the key things here is I can handle X number of partners directly. I can get them on, I can have my people engaging with them directly. And then I've got the long tail, the thousands and thousands of partners where it's just not cost effective for me to put a training team in, a sales team in, etc. How do you handle that long tail? What are the key technologies you need in place to automate that? And what's the best way of engaging with them?
Yeah, so that your typical Pareto principle, that 80-20 rule, that that long tail of partners, because at one point, if you look at that long tail of partners, they probably were a good fit. They probably came in and they brought you, their first customer, that first deal, and then for whatever reason, they lost interest in terms of the engagement with you. However, but they still probably are a good fit. You just need to drive better engagement with that long tail, and it helps you, through automation. Almost if you treat those partners like you would, and customers, in terms of setting them up with a nurture campaign, so you can stay top of mind. And that's, triggered emails based off of activity that the partner is or is not doing, your typical partner newsletter, but also, being a little bit more focused in terms of the personas that you're going after. Some of those long tails, your main point of contact, they might not even be there. So there's techniques and tactics that you can use to try to penetrate within that partner and to find new partner and contacts to engage with, and try to reignite that relationship. If you think about it, how many partners in that database you only have one key contact for, and if that partner leaves, there goes that relationship. So trying to identify new contacts you might be able to reach out to, and then put them into some sort of nurture campaign to try to get them to re-engage. All that done through marketing automation tools, stuff you can do in your partner portal to drive that engagement back.
Okay, Christine, drill down into that a little bit. Give some specifics of the kind of things that you see your customers doing to have that sales enablement engagement where they can't afford to just throw a lot of human resources at the problem.
Sure, no problem. So in terms of when it's not resources or money, one of the approaches that we're seeing is effective is creating access to what success looks like or how it's achieved. Also creating access to expertise. So for instance, there was a question about highly regulated industries. It may be as simple as requiring them to do something that allows them to be invited to a sit down with the CRO or a product executive, or be part of a roundtable for a roadmap. These are often things that are perceived as bringing immediate value and a competitive difference to a sales force or a sales engineer, because they can ask the questions and get why someone was successful and replicate that as part of their day-to-day sales activities.
Okay. Then Carlos, one of the key things, a lot of people say, okay, we've got our own internal training. That's what we should use for our partners. What are the differences and similarities between what you're trying to do with the partners and what you're actually trying to do with your own sales team?
I mean, first of all, I want to say that learning and development is not a side hobby, right? There is a methodology and a science to proper development of content and material that will be absorbed properly and be used. One of the many mistakes that we make in this industry is that we take, again, the content produced for our own salespeople, change the name, insert, partner here, and call it, there you go, you got enablement. But we don't contemplate the target of that material, which is a very different individual than what the original content was created for. So one of the first conversations I had at Jamf with my learning and development group, which honestly wasn't very channel focused because we sell both direct and indirect. And I sat down with the lady who ran that group and I said, I want you to understand that my customer, the partner, is just as important as your customer, known as direct sales force, and that I expect a different level of development and material. And if not, I'm going to go outside the organization and I'm going to go get it. I'll go to somebody like Richard to help me out. And luckily for me, they got it right away, and they hired learning and development people that were very, very skilled and versed in developing material for the channel, which is a skill set that they did not have internally. Not her fault. That wasn't their target audience anymore, right? So once you get over that hurdle, then is who are you trying to enable and on what? We're running a competitive campaign right now in recruiting, and we were about to launch the campaign, and it was the same old, my 50-button remote is better than the competition's 50-button remote. And I put everybody back and I said, if I happen to stumble across the managing director, the owner of the business, what am I going to tell that person about why they should come to do business with us? And also we developed a whole different piece, which was really about all the things that we do as a company that actually, to Richard's point, gets that person behind your product, not because they want to sell your product, but because they want to do more business with their own customers. That gets lost continuously. Or we produce it once and then never update it again because it's too much trouble. Well, the value prop changes literally every year, if not more often than that, with so many releases that companies are doing these days in terms of their versions of their software. So to Christine's point is make sure that you're committed for the long haul so that you can continue to develop this material and not do it once and then direct your partner to a piece that's 2 or 3 years old.
And I think I would add to that also is that I think sometimes companies get narrow-minded and they forget that a salesperson or a sales engineer, what you're investing in is getting access to their time. Their time can be used for anything professionally or personally. And therefore, that's what you're competing against. So if your enablement doesn't explain why and then keep them coming back, you're in trouble.
I think there's, one more thing. My first mentor in this space told me that if you want loyalty, get a dog, don't get a channel. And I would kind of maybe tailor that a little bit and say, if you want loyalty, get a direct sales rep instead of a channel. The direct sales rep has fewer choices. They are going to toe the company line because that's what they're being paid to do. They're going to look within the company for different supplemental products that add value rather than recommend, an outside solution, or heaven forbid, a competitive solution, if that's a better fit for a particular customer. And partners look at all of that and say, hey, that's exactly what I'm doing. My interest is in the customer satisfaction. It's not in promoting your solution. So that means that all that training material that's automatically assuming that they're going to say exactly what it is that you've handed them, you can't use with partners because you can't expect that behavior from them.
And Randy, picking up on that, most tech companies are just producing a mass of information. If you're dealing with people and you present them, you've got a sales enablement program and you present them with a mass of information, the chance is absolutely nothing that's going to be really read. How do you get them to the information you actually want? What's the best way to do that within, say, the partner portal?
Yeah. So you got to promote it. Promote the content. And that's we go back. I know we touched on the segmentation, but one, understand who that is. When you design a piece of content, who's the audience, and getting into it. But then promoting it, making sure that you put out a communication strategy, externally to the partners. Like, hey, check out this new piece of content, or hey, we saw you just closed a customer in this industry. We just put out a new case study that has a industry specific case study in it. So getting that granular, where understanding, all right, these are the partners that would be interested into that, and then sending out the communication and promoting it. And then the other part, just internally. So anybody who's talking to those partners, the channel account managers, your support team, making sure that they're aware of the content that's out there. If you're putting it into a marketing automation platform and putting it out on the partner portal, make sure the sales team knows when they're talking to that partner, hey, we got a couple of new campaigns, that are available, and that they're promoting that content. And if you have, partner marketing managers, making sure that those partner marketing managers that are helping the partners run those marketing campaigns are doing the outreach to the partners. You almost, again, want to, kind of treat that content like you would, with leads, in terms of trying to get that engagement and trying to get the partners to get out there and use it.
And I think I would also say that, don't just do engagement in silos, or don't do them independently. Release independent content. Show how it links together, and show how the journey maps from first engagement or influence straight through to, as far as renewal and referral. Link them together.
And Richard, just I do want to bring you in now, but I want to ask a specific question, because I know this is something you're passionate about. We produce far too much stuff, more stuff than any partner can consume. I know you're a real advocate of limited but high quality and very targeted collateral. So try and give the audience a sort of checklist. What are the key things they should be producing, and what's a waste of time?
So I think you got some sales content and you got some marketing content. So let's just kind of separate those really quickly. You have to have a pitch deck. Something that you can hand to them to have them sell what it is that you're trying to do. I would argue that you need to have a white paper or something that explains why your technology or approach is different from your competition and is better suited for the customer needs, than you might have out there. And then you need to have probably some sort of playbook that says, this is how we recommend you approach different types of customers and you know, promote the solution. If you have those three things, you're probably, you know, going to hit 80% of what it is that you need to do with, you know, from the sales enablement. From a marketing enablement, you know, again, think of this as a buyer's journey, and you know, the process is almost always the same. I have a set of advertisements or emails that I'm sending to people. I'm generally asking them to go read a blog or look at a case study or somehow, you know, interact with a webinar or something along those lines. And then I'm doing follow-up activity on those people to really understand who are the people who are most interested. And then that's going to get handed off to a salesperson who's going to hopefully be following the playbook that you sent to them. And so that's just kind of like 6 pieces of collateral that you then need to create. And if you focus on really those 6 pieces of collateral, you'll do well. And where it gets complicated is obviously for each different type of customer, you probably need to rinse and repeat. And so that's where you start getting, you know, flavors of those things. But generally, you know, with a simple solution, if you focus on those areas, you're gonna, you know, have great content. And only because I didn't think about it as I was saying that, I think what Christina said, or maybe it was Randy who said it, and that you've got a training process. And I like Carlos's, we go out there and we proactively train as opposed to waiting people train, so that you're really engaging people so that they've got knowledge of the tools and the resources and the support that you have to make them successful.
Okay, and Adisha, I'm going to come back into your issue because we're coming towards the end of the time allotted for the webinar. So Carlos, I've got a partner sales enablement strategy. How do I measure it and what should I measure?
Spot on what Richard said before. I mean, I can't stand the measurements when everybody starts. Well, we had so many visitors to the partner portal and they looked at such and such in content. I go, yeah, I could do the same thing. I just go there, click on something and not watch it, right? And so it is really about outcomes-based enablement. I'm doing all this stuff, and ultimately what matters is, am I selling more stuff, right? Is my average sales price to the partner going, am I doing more ACV? Am I doing my RR? I like to focus on the outcome rather than focus on the activity. Yes, the activity is something that is important. I've developed something called measures of success, and I equate it to, you know, going to practice Monday through Friday if you're a professional football player, right? If you don't do all the right things Monday through Friday, you're definitely not going to be successful probably on Sunday. So you do have to do all those things, but really all that matters is, in the words of our departed dear friend Al Davis, is win, baby, right? So if you're not driving the needle, then there's no purpose to doing enablement.
Yeah, and
And Randy,
point,
do you want to come in on that one? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, on that point, you know, it's about, you know, tying the enablement back to revenue, and, you know, telling the story of how that happened. You know, an example would be, you know, just say a partner goes out and they close a big deal, and you're pumped, you're excited about it, and then you say, all right, let's go back and let's rewind a bit and see, you know, where this deal came from. You know, you go back and you say, all right, you know, this partner was onboarded, you know, 6 months ago. They went through the onboarding, they took this training course. You know, from this lead, they ran this marketing campaign that generated the lead. When they were in the sales cycle, you know, they use this white paper, they use this pitch deck, and you can start seeing the individual, you know, pieces of content and the collateral that was used to win that deal. And then what you can do is, you know, you can take that, you know, kind of prescription of success, so that when a next partner comes around that looks like that same partner, you can start prescribing, you know, those same assets, the same training content, the same collateral. You know, when they register a deal, you know, hey, you just registered a deal for this type of customer, you know, it's an enterprise customer, they're in this vertical, you know, hey, here's the deck you should be using, here's the brochure you should be using, you know, hey, here's a training course that we would suggest, you know, here's a marketing, you know, campaign we suggest, you know, being real prescriptive because you have the data, you know what good looks like. And so when that next partner comes around, you can be real prescriptive in terms of what they're engaging with.
Excellent. And Richard, specifics, what other things should you be measuring in the program?
I'm going to make a bit of an assumption that most people on the call are going to be software as a service. I recognize that what I'm about to say might not hold true completely for hardware, you know, companies. But you guys are today being measured on recurring revenue, customer acquisition costs, customer lifetime value. Use those same measures for your sales enablement. Remember or track how many new customers, people who have gone through your sales enablement, are bringing relative to those that aren't. The same thing with the lifetime value of the customer, and compare them, with those that aren't. So you, in essence, have two control groups: those who've gone through the enablement, those who haven't gone through the enablement. And if you're doing it right, customer acquisition costs, customer lifetime value, recurring revenue should all be better with those that are doing the enablement than those that aren't. And if that's not the case, rethink your enablement strategy. If it is the case, promote the hell out of that, both internally and externally, to make people see that there's value in what it is that you're doing.
Okay. I'm going to come through everyone with one final question. There's a lot of industry stats that say of all the partners that show an interest or even get as far as signing a contract with a vendor, 80% of them never actually do anything. Carlos, why is that, and what can we do about it?
Well, happens a lot is a lot of partners call in with a deal, right? They're not necessarily looking at a relationship with you as a brand. They just happen to stumble across an opportunity. Like Richard said, the oyster finds an opportunity and wants to become your partner. And it's a shame on us that we don't have a much higher qualification process to make sure that that is a quality partner, that is somebody that you have a relationship, that you can have a relationship with, and that you're willing to invest the time. So we get enamored here with the number of partners, and for me, all that really matters is the number of active partners. And I much rather turn away partners up front than to get into a bad relationship, which does not end well anyway, 2 or 3 years later, if not sooner. And I don't think we do enough qualification up front.
Christine, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so I think we have to recognize that not all partners have the same objectives. Not all of them have the same measures of success or scales. And I think it's important, as part of your enablement, to look for opportunities to automate and make self-serve certain features, because we never know what, when a partner is going to come in an opportunity where your product or your service might fit as part of a bigger relationship or a bigger service or an upgrade. So I'd say automation and self-serve is an important feature to consider in your strategy.
And Richard, what sort of things, partner approaches you, what are the sorts of specific things you can do to understand whether this is a one-shot deal, someone you really can build a relationship with, someone you should invest time and energy on?
I think understand your cost to serve model and the role in automation and lowering that, and then making sure that it's aligned to the right people. And it's funny, I used to work at Microsoft many years ago, and we developed what we call the action pack. I think it's probably still around. And it was actually interesting because it was a cost recovery method for doing self-service. We wanted to get people to have not for resale software, but we couldn't afford at the time to distribute, that software. So we put a cost to it, and it was still self-serve. It was still fully automated. You bought it like a product, but you didn't have any cost to serve around it, so it scaled infinitely. And that's what you need to do, is recognize that you're going to have the 80% that are oysters. You scale for those people and have the right resources there. And then you dedicate your expensive resources to the tigers, so that you can make sure that you're having the biggest business impact with the partners who are most likely to give you a return on investment.
Mm-hmm. And Randy, if you're automating this, what are some of the key indicators you should be looking at in that automation that says, hey, this is a one-shot deal, this is a partner I really need to spend some time and effort on?
Yeah, so I mean, for those net new partners, one, it's about getting them into the program. When a partner registers to become a partner, that shouldn't be a 2-month long process and interviews. They've got a deal, that's something hot, you want to get them in. And then automating, the onboarding steps and then some of the enablement steps. So, as the partner is in the program, they're excited. Probably one of the most exciting parts of the relationship is when that partner first signs up. And you got to take advantage of that momentum and, get them in there, get them starting, down the training path, the enablement path, your onboarding process. And you'll learn pretty quickly on whether or not, that partner is engaged. If the partner's willing to go in and get trained up and, making sure they have all the, the collateral that you're putting out there, maybe they're running marketing campaigns for you, those are all indicators that, hey, this is a good partner, as opposed to somebody that's coming in just a deal they're looking to register for you.
Fabulous. We've run out of time, but I'd like to say a huge thank you to Randy, to Carlos, to Christine, and to Richard for some terrific insights. And hopefully everyone's walked away with some really good things that they can take back and start improving their partner sales enablement strategies. And as we leave, you'll be asked to complete a survey. It's very, very important to us to understand how well this is working for you. So please do take 2 minutes to complete that survey as you leave. But once again, Carlos, Christine, Richard, and Randy, terrific insights. I hope that was very, very helpful. I'm sure it was for everybody on the call. Thank you so very, very much.
Perfect. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.